software looks like, because we've been getting a lot of feedback from people that they're interested in moving forward on NightZooKeeper, in addition to the homes that we already have NightZooKeeper running in. And there's two programs really that we have. So the one that I'm showing on my screen now is called NightZooKeeper Mission, so like creative writing. And it's really geared for the youngest of kids to be able to come in and study not only English, but also using the computers. And when I say little kids, I mean as young as maybe 5 or 6, all the way up to junior high school. So every class that we have with the kids, we start them, first of all, we give them a blue book, which I should have had with me, but basically we take a blue notebook and we put a YouMeWe sticker on it. And then inside that, we give them a personalized page with their name, and then their username and password. And then there's also a stamp card. So with the stamp card, we're having them get a stamp every time they attend a class. And at 15 stamps, for example, they would receive a McDonald's card. And then after, I think, 20 classes, they receive a certificate to go to the movie theater. But then when they get to like 20 classes out of 42, then they get AirPods. And at the very end of 42 sessions that they attend, they would get their own iPad. And so it's really kind of an interesting way, not only to keep them motivated, but also kind of reward them for coming to the classes. And so currently at St. Francis, for example, we have too many kids to do in one class. So they've broken it up and slowed it down a little bit, so that, for example, one Monday we have all the young girls, and then another Monday we have all the young boys, and then another Monday we have kind of the junior high school girls, and then the next Monday we have the junior high school boys. And so I think if we had everybody in the same class, it would probably be all 50 kids, which is a bit much. But essentially, we start each kid with the first half an hour in the missions group, and we have them actually write out the words that will be introduced in the mission. So under this program, let me play the video and see if you can hear the audio. But if you can't hear the audio, please let me know.
I don't think the audio is playing.
Oh, you didn't hear it? Okay.
Yeah.
So sorry. So essentially, it basically is saying that monsters have stolen the colors from the zoo. And so the kid's job is basically to go into the zoo and help us recolor. And so at the end of the missions that they participate in, they will have effectively created a digital color book. And so the first page of the color book looks like this, and it teaches them how to use the palette, and they give Japanese explanations to the kids. They tend to be quite young, and we have them read this out so that they understand it. But then we also, sorry, let me move this. We then teach them how to use the colors, how to use the lines, how to use the color in, how to use the erase. And so we really put them through a different process to teach them how to also draw. And then when they're done, so for example, green, and then we teach them about the different lines, the bigger lines, the thinner lines, how to erase, redo, undo, and erase everything. Yeah. And then, okay, so when we're done with this, then we go to the actual mission. So the first half an hour, as I mentioned, they would be writing out the words just so that we can have them do the lesson in preparation. But then afterwards, we basically have them go online. And then after reading the instructions for the next half an hour, they click on the symbol and then they can hear the word being said in English in a female and male's voice. So they just click through all the different colors, have them pronounce them. And each kid has their own username and password. And we correct pronunciation where necessary. But then afterwards, it's kind of like a quiz. And so the computer will mention a color, and then they quickly with their mouse or with the trackpad will go click on it to get it right. Or if they get it wrong, they don't get a point, but they move on. So I don't think you can hear the audio, but I can hear the audio. And then when they're done, they're like, okay, you did it in 18 seconds. Do you want to do it faster? And so it's kind of a fun way for them to learn. And then, yeah, we just gradually go through all these different missions. So this one has to do with colors, but then we also have one for numbers. We have one, and in this case, they would ask them to draw something like something in a different color for the animals in the zoo. And then they could use the same functionality to draw something. And then mission 2, I think, is parts of the face. And so there's 40 different missions for the younger kids, and that's what we do with them. Any questions so far on this part?
Hi, this is Lydia.
Hi.
I have some
Hi, Lydia.
questions.
Sure.
When the audio was playing for the instructions, was the audio in Japanese or English?
It's actually in English.
Oh, okay. So even though the words come out in Japanese, the audio is in English.
Yeah, this software was originally written for native speakers in the UK. And then I think they brought it to Japan post facto. And so they've just kind of modified it for the Japanese audience by adding Japanese instructions and then that text that you saw. But I think originally it was intended for, and so in fact, we introduced it in the UK and there's over 3,000 kids that are using it in the UK, for example. They're improving their own English capability actually.
Excellent. Okay. So none of the audio is in Japanese, right?
No, correct.
Okay, excellent. By the way, I think we can hear very truncated versions of the audio because it's filtering through your mic, but we can't hear the one like, that's on screen. So just to let you know.
Okay, so what I'll do just for your benefit and then after this call as well, is I'll include the links for you guys to be able to have to check out. So the one I just sent you now is for the missions, and then NightZooKeeper is quite easy. It's just nightzookeeper.com. Okay, any other questions?
Hi, Michael. It's nice to see you.
Hi, how
can
are
you
you?
hear me?
I can hear you.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
And so are we designing our curriculums to be uploaded at this NightZooKeeper? Am I getting the idea wrong?
Actually, for this one, the curriculum is pretty much set in the sense that there's 30 set missions that are done, and then yeah. So I think if you, hopefully in today's calendar invitation, we have the master sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, one moment, please. I think inside the invitation.
Yeah, there's a master file for the kids.
Yeah, sorry, that's so big, but yeah. So that's basically what goes into their blue folder. So let me open that for everybody. Uh, one moment, please. Yeah, can everyone see my screen? So this is the first page of that book, and then this is the stamp card that I mentioned before, where they would get stamp cards. But then immediately it goes into lesson one. So lesson one would be the colors, as I showed you earlier, and then we would have them literally sit down and write out the words for red, etc. And then it goes on. Oh, it's actually numbers that it goes on to after that.
So in the case we're just like, watching the kids and instruct them for the curriculums.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they should have this physically with them. And so if you did it online, then it would just be a matter of asking them to write these out, and then they would hold it up to the screen if we're doing it by Skype or in person. And then
Yeah.
yeah, one lesson is essentially one unit. So if some of them go crazy, they go really fast through the units, but we don't necessarily recommend that.
Okay. So the sessions will be online and it's one by one or one by, is it one
Yeah.
by one session? Okay, I got it. And how do we know that you are assigning me to this kid, or how we're gonna know? Is it
So basically where we're at the moment is we've just received the demand from the different homes for NightZooKeeper. And so we're gathering the names of the kids, in fact, that want to be doing this, and then we will match you to the kids that have put their names forward.
and I'll just like kind of teach the kid and ask them to write and ask them to show me, so this is what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone? Okay, so then I will move on to the NightZooKeeper profile. So this is more geared towards the older kids, and so this particular school is a YouMeWe school, but it's actually in the Philippines, and I just chose this simply because I remembered what the username and password is. But all of the different homes have their own classroom, and then the kids inside the classroom have their own user account. So currently I'm signed into the teacher profile. So from the teacher profile, you can see your entire classroom. So these are all the kids that we happen to have in the Philippines. And then you can click on any of them and you'll be able to see where they are, like how many words they've written, how many awards they've got. So in this case, we actually signed up a lot of the kids, but a lot of them didn't really get started. But like one of our star writers, his name is Dindo. Here, so for example, he wrote over 9,800 words. He's received over 50 awards and done 40 articles and 12 lessons. And so to give you an example of what his, so then as the teacher, you have to excuse me, my screen isn't nearly big enough for this call. So as the teacher, not only do you see the classroom, but you can see if there's any work that needs to be published. So when we send lessons to the kids, they receive them as assignments that need to be done. But then when they're done, they submit them back to us as teachers, because we want to make sure that they don't just publish whatever they write. I mean, they could write, dirty words, they could write whatever they want. So essentially, going to the published work, we're looking here. And so, for example, this child, Jenny, has written this poem, but then she misspelled castle. And so when we look at this, we could go back and just say, and the computer kind of pre-programs the response. So rather than publishing it with the misspelling, we'd go back and give her a compliment, but then we'd ask her to check that. And then we would just click on try again. So then this would go from us as the teacher back to the student. So next time Jenny logs in, she would be able to see this and realize that she needs to update something. So this is another story by Jenny. And it says, how about a space after the comma? So what I would do is just read this. I wouldn't reject it. I would probably publish it, but then I would make a comment to try to get her to remember spaces after the commas rather than making her feel like every time she submits something that there's a problem. So I would just publish it like that. And then same with drawings. If they have drawings, they will come to you as a teacher to review before they're actually submitted. So I feel like I haven't seen these yet, so I want to go back and read them with more time later. Here you're able to see the reports from the school. So you can see, for example, how many people have written what. And so Noel has written the most. He's written over 23,000 words, and then Jenny has written over 12,000 words. So this would link back to the lessons that they've done. So every time they do a lesson, they would receive a stamp in their stamp card. But we also have certificates that we issue to kids once they've reached over like 5,000 words or 10,000 words, etc. And those are here in the NightZooKeeper base count. So I think it's a fun way to keep them motivated and to keep them continuing to go to the next step rather than getting bored. So we have certificates for 500 words, we have certificates for 10,000 words, and it goes all the way up. So every time they reach a different plateau, as a teacher, we would try to make sure to issue these awards. And then we also have other certificates. So for example, if they're in a writing contest or if they've done a great job in different ways, you can produce other certificates to give them. Any questions there?
Yes, Lydia has a question.
Yes.
Yes, regarding the automated messages, after they write something and then there's a comment that pops up, and try again and publish that one. So the messages are computer generated, right? The ones that appear in the field. Those
are generated, but you can override them.
Right, and assuming that we do what you did, where you like the comma, the space after the comma, you didn't choose to return it to the student, but you chose to publish it.
Yeah.
Is that comment published? Like,
if now when I go, now that it's in the classroom blog, like I'll go to the classroom blog now.
Mm-hmm.
And so now that is there, let's see, where is it? I think, I'm presuming it's this one.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if I made a comment, then yeah, actually the comment is there.
I see. All right. Okay, yes.
But then other kids in the class could just say, I loved your story. And then the other kids can comment. So it literally is like a blog within the classroom.
Right. And I'm assuming you can edit this post-it comment as the teacher.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Correct. It's
awesome.
It's not totally default. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's all for my questions. Thank you.
Now, I also included the curriculum as I would envision it, simply because I think it's very easy for us just to do whatever, and that's a very loose use of the word whatever. I think it's very easy to just kind of like go along and do things, and that's great. But I mean, the reality is, I think whether we're talking to real educators or anybody for that matter, I think it's better for us to have some structure. And so one of the things that we tried to structure is coupling the commonsense.org digital citizenship lessons with a NightZooKeeper lesson. So whereas I mentioned before with the little kids, we would have them write out the words in the first half an hour of the class, and the second half an hour of the class, they would actually go online. And also I want to mention, 5 and 6 year olds don't know where the keys are on the keyboard. So it's also a good exercise for them to be learning how and where the position of the keys are on the board. But for the older kids, the first half an hour would be us discussing the lesson. And then the second half an hour would be going on to NightZooKeeper to actually answer those questions regarding that principle. So this is, for example, media balance is important. So that's the digital citizenship lesson that we want to teach the kids. So we could play the video as teachers or instructors. We can put together a lesson plan. There's posters that we could use. But essentially, it's to talk about how kids should not be on their mobile phones all the time. They should be on the computers all the time. And so what we'd like to feel is that, from the curriculum that we're sharing with people, there's actually a lot of, depth to it. And it's not just simply going online and teaching, but rather teaching a common sense or digital citizenship lesson while we're at it. Let me find this again. Yeah. Does that make sense, what we're trying to do with the older kids?
Yes, excellent sense.
Okay. Yeah. So at the same time, I mean, every time a kid, even the older kids, when they're participating in these lessons, they're also learning the principles. And then after each unit, they can take a proficiency test to see if they remember the principles. And then we can issue them a digital citizenship certificate, as well as giving them stamps towards their own iPad. Now, up until now, I've been showing you the teacher login. But if we go into a login, for example, for Dindo, so this is what he sees when he logs in. So he's received 188 orbs. So orbs are like the points that they receive when they write more or they participate more and do more lessons, etc. Dindo actually graduated, so he has a lot of lessons he hasn't done. So now he's gone on to senior high school. But in addition to the kids receiving the lessons that we've assigned them, which are from the curriculum, there's new lessons that could be done. So for example, one of the lessons that he's been assigned is about cyberbullying. And so after that lesson and the first 30 minutes talking about cyberbullying, we would then have them go online and listen to the video about what's the difference between bullying and cyberbullying, because sometimes kids are being bullied and they don't realize it. Then we would read an instruction about a girl, for example, who had a birthday party and not everyone was included. And as a result, the people who didn't get included started to write, bad things about her. And then we introduce terms like bystanders and upstanders, etc. And we tried to explain who was what in this situation. And then in the next lesson, we challenge them through writing on, if you were these two people, why do you think they did this? And how do you think they could have acted differently from the beginning? And kind of just hopefully in a nice and interesting way, put them through this thought process about cyberbullying. I mean, my ultimate goal between the classes that we have in Ghana, the Philippines, and Japan is to get all of these kids online to have a Zoom call like this to talk about it, because I think it's definitely a digital citizenship challenge for everybody. I mean, every day in the news, you hear of celebrities committing suicide over social media posts that they were facing, etc. And what the goal really here is to explain to the kids that, number one, it's not your problem. Number two, it's not a Japan problem. Number three, this is a digital citizenship challenge. And so how we act offline and how we act online are equally important. And then in the end, the final question, basically you ask them is this, and then they would submit it. And then once they submit it, then as a teacher, again, you would go in and look at what they've written, and then we would move on to the next lesson for the next class. And if they happen to finish that early, there's a lot of fun games and things that they could do. So for example, one of the games that I like to play with the kids is the typing game, because more and more, I think knowing your keyboard is the most important thing, or one of the most important things going forward, more so than writing by hand, for example. And so this particular game teaches them how to type quickly, or challenges them to write quickly. So like, so if you type out the word that comes down, then it disappears. Otherwise, you know, it crashes down, and then you get a spider coming after you. So it gets faster and faster. So there's many different games. There's the word forest, where you choose which character you want to do the word forest, and it's a fun way for the kids to like climb up the tree. So you can make it easy, medium, or hard. So even easy, you would click on this and to get started, and then press play. So the word is adapt. So what is another word that you would use? And that let rent. Sorry, I can't see my whole screen. Higher. So it really depends on the level of the kids that are doing this. I mean, they may not know some of those vocabulary words that are coming out. This is word hunt, where you're hunting for verbs or hunting for nouns, and then those come across in the ocean, etc. So, we don't want to focus totally on games. We want to have a lot of substance to what we're doing, but we think it's also important to teach kids in a fun and interesting way, the way they want to learn. And so this is essentially the view from the student standpoint. So they can go in and see the blog of things that they've written, but also other things that their fellow students have written, and then they can make comments as well. So here, for example, is that previous article. So yeah, I guess the students are also able to see the comment that came from the teacher as well. So I really see this more for your junior high school and high school kids that have more of an aptitude in the language and are interested in pursuing the language at a higher level. And then I also feel that once you have that rapport with the student, it's also an interesting way for you to become kind of a mentor with them. So when we introduce things like financial literacy or career assessments, etc., then it's a good way for you to be able to kind of do that online with them as well, depending on what your appetite is for volunteering. So in this case, any questions here on this? Still there? Is everyone still there? Yeah. No questions, I guess.
Hi, Michael.
Hi.
um, yeah, I was kind of wondering where we're gonna start off all of this. Are we going to start soon or what?
Yes. So, for example, this what I have on my screen now is what I call like my project matrix, and across the top you see all the home coordinators, and then and on the second line you see all the homes that we have relationships with, and then the next line is the number of PCs that they have. And so like Taiyo Gakuen, we still need to install PCs. We need to install PCs anywhere where it's red. But for example, when it comes to NightZooKeeper, um, some of the homes have already come back and indicated that they would like to start again, because in some homes we're already doing it. So like Matsubayan, St. Joseph's, and St. Francis, we're already doing it. But for example, Taiyo Gakuen or Sendai Tensien or Wakamatsu Ryo, that's where we have numerous students that want to do this. And so we can do it one of two ways. We can do it as a group lesson where you could teach the kids as a group and as a whole, or we could do one-on-one. So where I'm at the moment is having this training session so that you know exactly what it is that the software is and how it works, etc. But then start to pair you with either the home or on a one-on-one basis with the kids that are interested in doing this.
Okay, so I'm gonna check on the system and try to practice it with myself. Then I gotta start it. I'm gonna like, okay.
Yeah. So what I would do is, if you guys can email me, then I will sign you up to have a username and password as a student, so you can understand how it works on the student side. And then I can also pair you with one of the homes so you can get the username and password for the teacher side as well. So I think between now and getting started, if you can get familiar with how it works as a teacher and also a student, that's probably the best way to get started.
Okay, got it. And yeah, I guess so far I only got this kind of question.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions?
Hey, Michael. I had a question about so you say for the hour we teach them, and then when we correct them, like do we have a date when we submit like the answers for the teachers, or I mean for the students, sorry.
Generally, we're correcting them in class, but for the more advanced writing where they're actually doing it during class, I would say that would be our homework to respond to them between now and the next lesson. But we would also assign them the next lesson to be reading about it and understanding what we're going to be talking about. And so another thing that we use is Google Classroom. Because the whole thing is to make sure that everything we're doing is very secure, so people can't come in from outside, and so nobody can get into our Google Classroom unless they have a YouMeWe email address, which is another thing I would need to assign to people in order to be doing this. And then I don't know if you're familiar with Google Classroom, but essentially it's we have one for all of the different homes that we work with, and again, we would have the students' work in there. We would have all the files in there that we would share with them. Let me pull it up real quickly. So for example, this is the one, there's lots of them, but because we're part of G Suite as an MPO, so we get all of this for free. So for example, in the Philippines, here you can see the teachers who are there. And right now we're just focusing on this one student at the moment as they get back online again. The grades are here where for all the different lessons out of 100 possible, what is their score been? There's the stream here where you can be making comments into the classroom, and people, both students and teachers, could be making comments. And then in the class work, you not only have access to the Google Meet, but you also have access to the Google Calendar to be making appointments, etc. And then in the class drive folder, that's where you would be storing material. So for example, in this case, this was the lesson plan for that day where the teacher had stored it, and it went into detail on what they were going to be discussing in the lesson. this teacher kind of went above and beyond. I think it's very easy just to download from the commonsense.org site to upload into that and then assign it to the students. So then they're looking at this in preparation for next week's lesson while you're recording and grading their previous lesson from the lesson before. If that makes sense.
So Michael, it's me again. And so we're using both Google Classroom and the NightZooKeeper, where we'll contact, write down the assignments at the Google Classroom and, schedule the joint meeting at the Google Meet. And then they will, when the lesson starts, they're going to access the materials to the NightZooKeeper and do their stuffs, and then they will submit their assignment from the Google Meet. Google Classroom. Then I'll check them. Is it like that? Am I correct or am I wrong?
You're correct. So, I mean, if you look at it from the student standpoint, the only interaction they have with you is, aside from the online lesson, is whatever they're assigned in NightZooKeeper. But if in addition to that you're assigning them the digital citizenship lesson through the Google Classroom, then that's how they can get the material for that.
So there are like two things that I have to make sure, like them
Yeah.
doing their stuff at the NightZooKeeper, and they're doing my assignment too.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions from anyone? Okay, so I think after this call, I'll share, this was all recorded, by the way, so I'll share this link so you can go back and listen to it again, but also I've shared the links of the different systems as well, so that, and plus on this calendar invitation, I also submitted a lot of the material. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask, but to answer the earlier question, I'd like to start as early as possible. And so what I'm going to be doing now that we've got the feedback from the homes is start to get names and frequency of when the homes would like to get started on this. And then I'll be in contact with you on scheduling and matching you with the particular home. And the other reality is, every Monday face-to-face, we go to St. Francis. And if you're in the Tokyo area and you're free to join us from 7 to 8 on Mondays, as long as you bring a mask, you could also be joining us face-to-face in these lessons as well.
Sorry, 7 to 8 p.m.?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well, thank you all for your time today, and I hope that was helpful. I know, as I think I mentioned before, I could inundate people with all the information from the beginning and probably lose most of you, or just kind of go a little bit slower pace, which we have the benefit of doing in 2020, and then just kind of build up organically so that you guys are more comfortable with what we're doing, and then you're more comfortable, going forward with this. So that's what's the goal for today. Okay. Yes.
Michael, so
yes.
so for the class that I'm in charge with, do I have another, like someone who actually is in, do I have another people that I work with, or am I working alone?
It depends, and that depends on how big of a demand it is. For example, if it's just like a group class, then we would probably have you and someone else just in case you're not available. But if it's a one-on-one, then it's up to you to kind of decide with the student when you guys would like to meet. And then, if you want to skip weeks or whatever, just be in contact about that as well. So it depends.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, the most important thing is obviously to accommodate everyone's schedule, but also to keep up the momentum. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everyone, and look forward to being in touch with you soon.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks.
Bye.
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 Mhm.